Whoops, knocked over my chair. Sorry, knocked over my chair. Oh, wait, that's still on? Why is it still on? Okay, it's not supposed to be on. I had the wrong screen up there. That's how that goes. It's Saturday. What do you expect? You know, it's the weekend. I'm on a holiday. Only, let's see. Now, okay. I Googled, and it takes you to Copilot. And Copilot told me there's 131 days till Christmas. I was like, no, that can't be right. I said, you're wrong. I said, oh, no, it's 151 days to Christmas. I'm like, again, yeah, I'm sorry. That's hallucinating. Okay, it's wrong. Christmas is 95 days away. Not 131, not 151, 95. So I'm telling you, once again, lying to us. It's a hallucination, but it's still a lie. Anyway, it's 95 days till Christmas, 67 days to Thanksgiving, and 40 days to Halloween. There you go. Now you know. And today's episode 112. So that just means that there's what? How many left? 88 episodes till 200. And hopefully till the building gets sold. And there was no break-ins today. That's now become my daily thing. I get to drive down to the old radio station building and see if anything's destroyed. There was an encampment there, so I had to deal with that. One day. I mean, I appreciate the unhoused needing a place to be, but seriously, it doesn't need to be like on my front porch. Okay? I just, whatever. Don't want to go there. September 20th. How's everyone doing tonight? Saturday night. Saturday, night. Bay City Rollers. That's who sang that song. I'm going to start with births today, just because. I'm going to start with births. There's only one death, and I can do that right away. That was Jim Croce. He died in 1973. Bad Leroy Brown. Because he's bad. Leroy Brown. Baddest man in the whole damn town. Badder than the old King Kong. Meaner than a junkyard dog. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Jim Croce. He had other songs, but that's the one that I know. Right at the top of my head. With lyrics and all. That was it. He's the only person that I wrote that died today. Nobody else. Death took a break from actors and musicians. Born on this day, both Chuck Panozzo and John Panozzo, the bassist and the drummer for Styx, are born on this day in 1948. Oddly enough, in 1967, both Gunnar Nelson and Matthew Nelson, guitar and bass of Nelson, are born on this day. So two sets of twins, because twins are two, two sets of twins in two different rock bands in two different decades. There you go. Coincidence. Maybe they'll go to Twinsburg in Twinsburg, Ohio for the Twins Festival. Just saying. Also, Alina Carey of Thompson Twins, born on this day. That's Hold Me Now. Come on, that was a great alternative band, the Thompson Twins. And then Sophia Loren, born on this day, actress Sophia Loren. And 1941, Sylvester J. Pussycat Sr. Because remember, there was a small one too. But the cartoon has a birthday. Again, just like, I'm assuming I'll find Bugs Bunny has a birthday at some point when I come across that. But yes, today is the Thuffer and Succotash, Sylvester J. Pussycat Sr. Now, it didn't say Tweety Bird, so Tweety Bird must have been born a different day because there was no Tweety Bird birthday, just Sylvester J. Pussycat Sr. You had to make sure there's seniors in there. So now you know that the cat had a birthday. All right. 1814. I know, way back, but it's significant. Defense of Fort McHenry poem. That was the name of it. The Defense of Fort McHenry. And it was a poem. It was published as a song with the lyrics by who else? Francis Scott Key. Today we know it as the Star Spangled Banner. So, defense of Fort McHenry. Interesting. That's why the rocket was created, the bomb bursting in air, because it was over the fort. But I didn't know it was Fort McHenry. Now I do. 1964, the Beatles closed their first U.S. tour and returned to New York City for a charity concert for the Cerebral Palsy Foundation of New York City. Also had some other minor stars around the bill with them. It was at the Paramount Theater. It's not that big of a theater. I was trying to Google how big it was back then, but it's not huge. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Contagious yawns. Somebody out there yawned, and I must have seen it. Now I had to yawn too. That's the way that works. 1969, John Lennon announces in private to Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney that he's leaving the band. George Harrison is not in attendance. This is in a private business meeting in London. It's not publicly announced for almost a year. But this is all stems back to why did John Lennon leave the Beatles? Was it Yoko Ono? What was the reason behind it? Didn't want to be an old rock star? I don't know. But that's what happened on this day in 1969. The Beatles were told they get their walking papers. 1969 also, virtual cartoon band. Remember, they're not real. Okay, the Archies hit the Billboard chart #1 with the song "Sugar Sugar." Again, they weren't a real band. This was a cartoon. It was even more fake than the Monkees were, because they didn't even exist. They were a cartoon, but someone had to play it. I was trying to find the actual players, but did not, because I didn't look long enough, because I got bored and I looked at other things. Sorry, I can go back to that one at a different point. I'll make an asterisk and I'll see if I can come back and figure out that exact thing. Now, this one I did see. This one I researched a little bit more because it concerned and interested me a little bit more. 1970, Jim Morrison, Mr. Mojo Rising, the Lizard King, is found guilty in a Miami, Florida courtroom of the actual, what it was is open profanity and indecent exposure. This stems back to my joke that I talked about when Lenny Kravitz's penis came popping out. This is supposedly Jim Morrison was drunk on stage, and besides slurring profanities because he was so drunk he just mumbled through the show, that he was yelling, "Do you want to see my cock?" And either did or didn't. There's lots of conflicting reports. So the trial occurred. And basically, he was found guilty and sentenced to 6 months in jail and like a $500 fine. Most of the witnesses who were shocked and that it was upsetting to them were somehow related to or had a relationship to and with the police. So it's still speculative if Jim Morrison actually ever whipped out his wang. But sentenced to 6 months in prison as well as a $500 fine. Or he could play a free show for the city. He declined to do that. So he was released on $50,000 bond, and then took off, eventually went to Paris, where he passed away within a year or a year later, in 1970 in France. So he's never found guilty or otherwise. In 2010, on his birthday, December the 8th, he was in fact posthumously pardoned by Miami-Dade for his indiscretions and crimes. Now, that wasn't the first time Morrison actually went to jail or was arrested. The first time it happened when he was 19 in 1963 in Tallahassee, Florida, at the University of Florida Seminoles football game. There's a mugshot of him. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out still this free usage thing. If it is fair usage, can I put up the picture that I found through like Wikipedia and whatever else when I look for those mugshots? So that's my big thing I'm trying to figure out, so I can be like, boop, picture, boop, picture. I'm assuming I can, because this is news, right? I'm doing news. This is news. So that's, I'm trying to get that said. I just don't want to get dinged by YouTube. That's all. Anyway, He was then again arrested. I believe the second arrest happened in 19. Oh yeah, it happened actually the day after his birthday, 12/9/1967, in New Haven, Connecticut. Basically, he was found backstage before a show in a shower with a woman. He was not recognized by the officer, and they told me he had to get out of there. He told the cop to eat me. He was maced. And basically arrested and thrown out. The show was delayed. They finally figured out who he was, and the show went on. But that was number 2. And then, of course, number 3 happened in Miami, where subsequently he was convicted of this crime and never served any time or paid his fine because, in fact, he died. There you go. There's your Jim Morrison factoid minute for a second. 1972, police find cannabis. Shocking. Cannabis growing on the farm of Paul and Linda McCartney. Now, I did not really dig into that one, but obviously didn't get arrested or anything. They just found weed growing. So this isn't the first time McCartney's had run with a law for weed. I think it's like the 6th at this point that I've reported on. He seems to be, quite the stoner and not very good at concealing it or caring at this point. So I'm sure that he's really happy that there's now laws where he can get high in cities for whatever reason. He doesn't have to worry so much about it anymore. Him and Willie Nelson should be hanging out more, apparently, with Snoop Dogg and others. 1975, David Bowie hits his first number 1, only number 1, in fact, for Fame. It went number 1 in the charts starting today for 2 weeks. But yeah, you would think that Bowie would have other number 1 hits, but I guess he was enough of he wasn't a mainstream artist, I guess you would say, so he didn't have a ton of critical acclaim when it came to the mainstream media. So his only number 1 was Fame. It was on this day, and it stayed that way for 2 weeks. The Captain and Tennille variety show started on this day in 1976. They were extremely popular, had some horrible songs, and like Muskrat Love. I mean, wow, I listened to that again. I'm like, holy crap, that's bad. Anyway, they were even asked by Nancy Reagan to play at the White House. They got a TV show because they were so popular. It lasted about a year, and then they were canceled because, yeah, they were Captain and Tennille. Daryl Dragon and someone Tennille. I forget her first name now. I just saw it 5 minutes ago. But there's my short-term memory for you. 1976 also, AC/DC released their 3rd LP. Now, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap is released in Australia and Europe on this day in 1976. But it actually wasn't released in the U.S. until 1981. Almost 5 years later. More than a year after the actual singer of the album, Bon Scott, had died. I couldn't find why it was released so late. And what its reasoning was, but yes, it took almost 5 years to release it from the UK to the States. It actually only ever reached number 3 in the Billboard chart. That was as high as it ever went. Yeah, again, the whole Bon Scott thing was a little bizarre to me, why they waited so long to do that. But I guess, that's the way it goes sometimes. They release it at a different time. We've seen it, but 5 years just seems a long time to do that, as well as after the singer's death. I don't know. 1980, The Blizzard of Oz, Ozzy Osbourne's first solo album after being asked to leave the band Black Sabbath. It was his debut solo album in the UK. It only actually ever reached number 21, but it did go 5 times platinum in the US. Again, not to critical acclaim. It never hit number 1. I think they said it was number 21 is as high as it ever got on the Billboard chart. But again, it did sell 5 million copies. So that's pretty substantial when you think about it. If he's selling 5 million copies, 5 times platinum. 1984, The Cosby Show premieres on NBC TV. Ah, yes, Mr. Bill Cosby. Leave it at that. 1985, Walt Disney World welcomes its 200 millionth guest. That was in 85. Now it's 2025. Just wondering how many more people came to the door since then. And will people be boycotting Disney? I don't know. We'll see. Seems to be controversial at the moment. 1999, Law and Order SVU premieres on NBC TV. See, this is that time of year. All these TV shows premiered. We talked about that the other night from the 1960s, where we had I Dream of Jeannie. We had, what else did I say? Get Smart. The Addams Family. A whole bunch of TV premieres happened this time of year because back in the day, this was the time of year for the fall sweeps lineups. School started, kids are back in schools, people are at home, they're not vacationing, and now they're sitting at home, settling in, watching the boob tube on their Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. 2005, Kate Moss is dropped by H&M Advertising. The heroin chic model is discovered to have been involved with cocaine. Yes, I said it, cocaine. And H&M did not like the drug use image and dropped her from their modeling campaign. It didn't exactly hurt her career that much. She still had lots and lots of other things and continued to live her life, but H&M was not having any of that. I guess there was documented pictures and everything else, so you'll have that. Again, how do you think she stays heroin chic, as they say it? Heroin? 2011, Zooey Deschanel premieres in her own TV show, New Girl. Today's also Batman Day. I didn't know that. It's one of those things that's not National Batman Day. It's actually just Batman Day. I did actually watch the Lego Batman movie last night because why not? Who doesn't love Lego Batman? I can watch that thing over and over again. If I had to have desert island movies, I could probably watch Lego Batman because it's just kind of ridiculous and funny. And who doesn't love Lego movies? Because it's Lego. You know, I mean, I've got it lurking behind me as we speak, right? There it is. See? With a yellow submarine and all. So I've got the Beatles and Lego constantly with me. And Star Wars, but that's secondary or thirdary, right? Because Lego, Beatles, Star Wars, that's thirdary, not. So it'd be tertiary. Tertiary. 1957, Buddy Holly released Peggy Sue, which only went to number 3. Buddy Holly killed in a plane crash. We think we talked about that recently when Buddy Holly passed in a plane crash. 1958, King Creole album soundtrack by Elvis for the movie of the same name, King Creole, started a 70-week run at number 1 in the UK. I was going to listen to it a little bit, but I didn't have time to do that. But again, some of these things have the UK Billboard chart and the US Billboard chart, which clearly aren't the same because it did not chart in the US like it did in the UK. Interesting enough. Blind Faith in 1969 did both US and UK. This rock supergroup topped both of those charts with a debut self-titled album. So see, it had both US and UK Billboard charts. As well as in 1969, CCR begins a 3-week run at number 1 in the UK with Bad Moon Rising. It actually only hit number 2 in the US, but it was their second gold single. So gold meaning that they sold at least 500,000 copies. So number 1 in the UK, number 2 in the US. There is definitely that distinction when it comes to bands across the channel, across the pond, as they say. But yeah, I find it interesting that, again, going back to the AC/DC, that they released that in the UK but not in the US for almost 5 years. So definitely very different musical tastes back then. I don't think we do that as much now. I think that the industry is definitely more instantaneous. I mean, it used to be that there was very specific release dates also. You only released albums on certain days and singles on certain days. That was sort of the industry standard. So I think that that's also changed because of just how instantaneous things are. I don't think they can release songs and albums only in one side of the world because, you know, if you release it in the U.S., play, you're going to hear it in the UK, you know, moments later. So I think a lot of that's changed, so you don't see that in later dates now anyway. But that's just me. 1977, Ringo Starr. We All Live in a Yellow Submarine, Ringo Starr, released his sixth solo studio album, called Ringo the Fourth. Now, I only know a couple of Ringo Starr songs. I mean, obviously he doesn't have a ton of his songs that have hit, critical acclaim and popularity because it's Ringo Starr. But there's some I know, some I don't know. But that's always interesting. In 1980, on this day, September 20th, Kate Bush becomes the first solo British female artist ever to reach a number one. And that was for Never Forever. Interesting, Kate Bush. I mean, I guess so. 1980, I'm trying to think of whether solo artists there were that could do that. Maybe like Blondie. But yeah, Kate Bush, of all people. Number one, first solo British female ever to hit number one. 1980 also. Sorry, I totally giving him LP 5 weeks number one, only chart topper in the U.S. But I don't have who it is. I usually can look down and read my scribbly notes, but this one I'm completely lost. That I'm what did I even write here? Given the game, what's that? Oh, Queen. Crap. Queen, the band Queen. The game LP, sorry, starts today. It's 5-week run in number one. It's their only chart topper in the U.S. So that's interesting also if you think about that again, Queen never really found that, found that acclaimed mainstream acceptance over and over again, whereas Queen is hugely popular, as David Bowie is. Again, they aren't mainstream popular, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, if you think about it. 2008, Metallica's 9th studio album, Death Magnetic, reaches number one in the UK and 24 other countries, as well as garnering them 3 Grammy Awards. Go to Metallica. Also in 2008, the Kings of Leon, Sex on Fire, is number one, and they also get, at the 51st Grammy Awards, Best Rock Performance. There you go. So I'm keeping it really brief tonight. I did not dig deep into a lot of stuff because it's Saturday night. Nobody's here. I found that everyone's busy on Saturday nights. Definitely not my most popular evening. People are out having lives, and that's good. Have a life. I had a life at some point. My life is different now. I spend my days in my dungeon. See this place? This 7-foot by 8-foot cacophony of stuff. So there you go. All right. Let's see. Oh, Heinz verified. I don't even have a picture tonight. Too bored. See, that's what I have. Sound overdose. So I don't even have that. I do have this, Randsanity. So go ahead and like and subscribe. We'll get there eventually, I promise. I have to leave this place soon. I might just start posting, cross-promoting. I have to figure out how to do that. If anyone knows all the stuff about YouTube, please let me know. Besides that, I'm going to go ahead and go. Again, I could go further, but when there's nobody here watching, it just makes it a little defeated. So, what can I say? Have a great rest of your Saturday evening, and I will look forward to you tomorrow, Sunday, the 21st, not Batman Day, and not Talk Like a Pirate Day. Arr. Thank you. Fade to black. Oh, Ozzy. Oopsie, what I hit? Oh, crap. I did something bad. do.